Welcome back to my YouTube channel Coin Secrets. What if I told you the next coin you ignore could quietly slip through your fingers and take a life-changing opportunity with it? Not a lottery ticket, not a risky investment, but a simple, overlooked piece of American history, sitting in drawers, jars, and pockets across the country right now. And here's the twist: it might already be in your home. We're talking about the 1948 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin most people dismiss without a second thought. No mint mark, no attention, no excitement, but for those who understand what to look for, this humble penny can become something far more powerful. Now, let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny before spending it? Be honest, most people don't. And that's exactly why opportunities like this still exist. The year is 1948. America is rebuilding after World War II. Industry is booming, families are growing, and millions of coins are being minted to support a rising economy. Among them, the Philadelphia Mint produces millions of Lincoln Wheat Pennies without a mint mark. Completely normal, completely ordinary. Or at least, that's what most people believe. But here's where things start to shift. Because hidden within these ordinary coins are subtle variations, tiny minting anomalies, and rare high-grade survivors that have escaped circulation damage for decades. These are the coins collectors chase. These are the coins that can command serious attention and serious money when they appear on the market. Now imagine this: two identical 1948 pennies, same design, same year, same color. One sells for a few cents, the other thousands of dollars, maybe more. What's the difference? Condition, precision, and sometimes a mistake. Yes, a mistake. And here's where things get interesting. Because in the world of coin collecting, errors are not flaws. They're opportunities. A slight doubling in the lettering, an off-center strike, a die crack running across Lincoln's portrait. These aren't defects, they're signatures of rarity. Quick question: if a machine makes millions of perfect coins, which one stands out more? The perfect one, or the one that wasn't supposed to exist? Exactly. And that's why collectors pay a premium for coins that break the rules. Now, let's talk about grade, because this is where most people unknowingly lose money. A 1948 no mint mark penny in average circulated condition might be worth $1 or $2, maybe less. But take that same coin, preserve it in near-perfect condition, with sharp details, original luster, and minimal contact marks, and suddenly, you're not dealing with pocket change anymore. You're dealing with an asset. Coins graded MS-65, MS-66, or higher by professional services like PCGS or NGC can command hundreds, even thousands of dollars, depending on eye appeal and demand. And when you combine high grade with a noticeable error, that's when the market starts to get very competitive. And here's the part most people never realize. The difference between a worthless coin and a valuable one often comes down to a detail smaller than a grain of rice. Let that sink in. Now, picture this scenario. You're sorting through old coins. Maybe they belonged to your parents or your grandparents. You see a 1948 penny, no mint mark. It looks old, maybe even a little worn. You toss it aside. What if that was the one? What if that single decision cost you hundreds or even thousands of dollars? That's not fear, that's reality. Because it happens every single day. People overlook value because they don't know what to look for, and the market doesn't wait for second chances. But here's the good news. You don't need to be a professional numismatist to recognize potential. You just need awareness. You need patience. And most importantly, you need to slow down and actually look. Start with the date, 1948, then check for the mint mark under the year. If there's no mint mark, it was minted in Philadelphia. That's your baseline. Now, examine the coin closely. Look at the lettering. Does anything appear doubled? Check Lincoln's profile. Any unusual lines or cracks? Is the coin centered perfectly? How sharp are the details in the wheat stalks on the reverse? And here's a simple but powerful tip. Tilt the coin under light. Luster and surface quality reveal themselves when the light moves. It's like the coin tells its own story. If you're willing to watch, and let's be honest, this is a lot more exciting than scrolling endlessly on your phone, right? Because this is real. This is tangible. This is the thrill of discovery. Now let's talk about selling, because that's where this journey can turn into real financial gain. If you believe you've found a high-quality or error coin, don't rush to sell it immediately. That's a common mistake. Instead, consider professional grading. Services like PCGs or NGC authenticate and grade your coin, giving it credibility in the marketplace. Think of it like this. Would you rather sell a maybe valuable coin or a certified asset with a verified grade? Exactly. Collectors trust certification, and trust drives price. Auction platforms, reputable dealers, and online marketplaces can then connect you with serious buyers, people actively searching for coins, just like yours. And here's something most people don't think about. The coin market isn't just about money, it's about timing. Demand rises and falls. New collectors enter the market. Trends shift. And when the spotlight hits a specific coin, prices can surge. So the real question isn't just what is it worth today, it's what could it be worth tomorrow. And that's where strategy comes in. Now, before we close, let me ask you one final question. How many coins have you ignored in your life, simply because they looked ordinary? Because the truth is, extraordinary value rarely announces itself. It hides, it waits, it blends in with everything else, until someone notices. And that someone could be you. So tonight, before you spend another penny, take a second look. Check your drawers, open that old jar, revisit those forgotten collections, because hidden in plain sight could be a story, a discovery, or an opportunity that changes the way you see money forever. And if you want to uncover more coins with hidden value, real market insights, and the details most people miss, make sure you subscribe to Coin Relive, because sometimes the smallest coins carry the biggest secrets. What if I told you that the small, ordinary penny sitting in your drawer right now could be quietly holding a story worth thousands of dollars? Not gold, not silver, just a 1-cent coin. From 1950. Most people wouldn't even look twice at it. In fact, millions of Americans have spent this exact coin without a second thought. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the difference between a worthless coin and a valuable one is so small, it's almost invisible. And if you miss it, you could literally spend away a hidden opportunity. Now imagine this. You're cleaning out an old jar of coins. You find a worn 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny. No mint mark. Nothing flashy. You almost toss it aside. But something stops you. That moment, that hesitation, could be worth more than you think. Because, in the world of coin collecting, the 1950 no mint mark penny holds a quiet but fascinating position. Struck in Philadelphia, these coins were produced in massive numbers. On the surface, they seem ordinary. But beneath that surface lies a different story. A story of condition, rarity, and tiny imperfections that can turn a common coin into a collector's target. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked closely at a coin? Not glanced, not spent, but really looked. Most people don't. And that's exactly why valuable coins continue slipping through everyday hands. Now, here's where things start to get interesting. The true value of a 1950 wheat penny doesn't come from the date alone. It comes from what collectors call grade and errors. In extremely high grades coins that look almost exactly as they did the day they were minted, values can rise dramatically. We're talking about coins that have never really been in circulation. Sharp details, clean surfaces, nearly perfect condition. And here's the twist. Finding one in that condition today is incredibly rare. Think about it. This coin is over 70 years old. Most have been handled, scratched, worn down by decades of use. So when a pristine example appears, collectors pay attention. And when collectors compete, prices climb. Now add one more layer to this. Errors. Tiny mistakes made during the minting process, a slight doubling in the letters, an off-center strike, a subtle misalignment that most people would completely overlook. But collectors, they hunt for these, because errors turn ordinary coins into one-of-kind pieces, and one-of is where the real money lives. Here's a quick reality check. Not every 1950 penny is valuable. In fact, most are not. But the few that meet the right conditions, the right grade, or carry the right error, those are the ones that can sell for hundreds, sometimes thousands, and that raises a serious question. What if you've already had one, and didn't know it? What if it passed through your hands, and you spent it on something forgettable? It happens more often than people think. Now picture this scenario. Two identical 1950 pennies, same design, same year, same metal. One sells for a few cents, the other, potentially hundreds or more. The difference, invisible to the untrained eye, that's not luck, that's knowledge. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's shift gears for a second. Why are people so drawn to coins like this? It's not just about money. It's about discovery. The idea that something small, something overlooked, could hold unexpected value. It taps into something deeper. Curiosity, opportunity, even a little bit of fear. Because no one wants to be the person who had something valuable and let it go without realizing it. Now here's where urgency comes in. Coins like these are still out there, sitting in jars, old drawers, piggy banks, inherited collections, but every single day, they disappear, they get spent, lost, damaged, and every time that happens, the remaining high-quality coins become even more valuable. Scarcity increases, demand grows, prices follow. So the real question isn't whether these coins exist, it's whether you'll recognize one before it's gone. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but where do I even start? Start simple. Check your coins. Look at the date, 1950. Look for the absence of a mint mark under the date. Then examine the condition. Are the details sharp? Is Lincoln's face clear? Are the wheat stalks on the back strong and defined? And here's the part most people skip. Look for anything unusual. Doubling, misprints, off-center designs. Anything that looks just slightly off. Because slightly off, in this world, can mean significantly valuable. Let me leave you with this. We live in a time where people are constantly searching for opportunities, new investments, side hustles, hidden value, but sometimes the opportunity isn't out there, it's already in your possession. Quiet, overlooked, waiting. A single coin won't make you rich overnight, but the knowledge to recognize value when you see it, that changes everything. So before you spend your next penny, take a closer look. Because sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest surprises, and you don't want to be the one who almost found it, but didn't look close enough. We're uncovering the story of the 1942 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny coin that doesn't just hold value, it holds opportunity. Now here's the question that should stop you in your tracks. How many times have you ignored a penny, tossed it aside, spent it without thinking? Because what if just once you were holding a coin worth $732,000 and didn't even know it? Let's begin. The year is 1942. America is deep in World War II. Resources are tight. Metals are being rationed, and the US Mint is under pressure to produce coins efficiently. Most pennies from this year were struck in Philadelphia, which means they carry no mint mark. At first glance, that sounds completely normal, even boring. But history has a way of hiding its most valuable secrets in plain sight. Because within this ordinary production, something extraordinary happened. A small number of 1942 pennies were struck with rare, minting errors, almost invisible to the untrained eye. We're talking about transitional anomalies, die imperfections, and in some cases, striking inconsistencies that make collectors lean forward and say, "Wait, this isn't right." And in the world of coin collecting, not right often means extremely valuable. Here's where things get interesting, and a little uncomfortable. Most people will never notice these details. They'll look at a penny and see just a penny. But serious collectors, they see patterns, weight, texture, alignment. They see history, and more importantly, they see money. So, ask yourself, honestly, are you overlooking something valuable in your own home right now? Let's talk about what makes this specific 1942 no-mint mark penny so powerful in today's market. Condition is everything. A heavily circulated coin, worth a few cents, maybe a few dollars. But a high-grade example, especially one with a verified error and pristine preservation, that's where the story changes completely. Coins graded at the top of the scale mint state condition can command prices that feel almost unreal. And when rarity meets condition, the market reacts fast. We're talking about auctions where bidders don't hesitate, where a single coin jumps from thousands to hundreds of thousands in minutes, and yes, examples connected. Two rare 1942 varieties and exceptional preservation have reached valuations approaching that $732,000 range. Pause for a second. $732,000 for 1 cent sounds unbelievable. That's exactly why most people miss it. Now, here's a quick reality check, because this is where many people get it wrong. Not every 1942 penny is valuable. In fact, most are not. And this is where excitement can turn into disappointment if you don't know what to look for. But for those who take the time to learn the signs, the weight differences, the strike quality, the luster, the microscopic details, that's where the advantage lies. Think of it like this. Treasure doesn't announce itself. It hides behind knowledge. And here's a thought that might make you smile. Some of the most valuable coins ever discovered weren't found in vaults or museums. They were found in pocket change, old jars, inherited boxes, everyday places, which means the barrier to entry isn't money, it's awareness. So what should you actually look for? Start with the basics. A 1942 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark means it was struck in Philadelphia. That's your foundation. From there, examine the coin carefully. Look for unusual doubling in the lettering, inconsistencies in the date, or anything that feels slightly off. Pay attention to the surface. Does it have original luster, or has it been worn down over decades? And here's a question most people never ask. Has this coin been professionally graded? because the difference between a raw coin and a certified one can be massive. Grading companies like PCGs or NGC don't just assign a number, they validate authenticity. And in high-value markets, trust is everything. Let me put it this way, would you pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for something Neither would serious collectors. Now, let's shift perspective for a moment. Imagine opening an old drawer tonight. You find a handful of pennies. You almost walk away, but something stops you. You take a closer look. One coin stands out. You send it for grading. Weeks pass, then the result comes back. It's rare, it's valuable, it's life-changing. That exact moment is what drives this entire market. But here's the uncomfortable truth again. Most people will never experience it. Not because the opportunity doesn't exist, but because they never look closely enough. So where does that leave you? Right now, you have two choices. You can treat pennies like everyone else. Just ignore them, spend them, forget them. Or you can start seeing them differently, as pieces of history, as hidden assets, as potential gateways to something much bigger. Because coins, like the 1942 no-mint mark wheat penny, aren't just collectibles, they're proof that value doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, and the people who learn to listen, they're the ones who win. Before you move on, take a moment today, just one moment, to check your coins. Look closer than you ever have before, because the difference between ordinary and extraordinary might be sitting right in your hand. And if you found this eye-opening, stay with Coin Relave, where we uncover the truth behind coins, the hidden details, and the real stories most people miss. Because sometimes the smallest discoveries lead to the biggest rewards. The moment you hear 1945 penny, your brain probably says it's just pocket change. But what if I told you that one of these ordinary-looking coins has triggered bidding wars, shocked collectors, and quietly turned everyday people into unexpected winners? Not because it looks different, but because most people don't know what to look for. And that's exactly why this story matters to you. Because the difference between 1 cent and a life-changing payday can come down to a detail smaller than a grain of rice. Picture this. It's 1945. World War II is coming to an end. America is transitioning from chaos to recovery. Billions of pennies are being minted, flooding into circulation. Fast forward to today, and those same coins are sitting in jars, drawers, and forgotten collections across the country, including very possibly in your home. Now, here's the twist. While millions of these coins are ordinary, a tiny fraction hold hidden characteristics that collectors are willing to pay serious money for. And no, it's not about luck. It's about awareness. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked closely at a penny before spending it? Not glanced, really looked, because most people don't. And that's exactly why valuable coins slip through their fingers every single day. It's almost ironic. The smallest denomination in American currency might be hiding the biggest missed opportunity. Now, here's where things get interesting. The 1945 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark was produced in Philadelphia, which means it doesn't stand out at first glance. But certain rare variations, like doubled dies, off-center strikes, or coins preserved in near-perfect condition can command astonishing attention in the collector market. And when demand meets rarity, prices don't just rise. They explode. Think about this for a second. Two identical-looking pennies. One gets spent on a cup of coffee. The other ends up in an auction, surrounded by collectors, driving the price higher and higher. What separates them? A microscopic difference. A subtle doubling in the lettering, a slightly shifted strike, or a pristine condition that somehow survived decades untouched. That's it. That's the line between ordinary and extraordinary. And here's a quick reality check. Because this is where most people get it wrong. They assume value comes from age alone. Old equals valuable, right? Not exactly. Age is just the beginning. Condition, rarity, and era types are what truly determine value. So, before you dismiss that 1945 penny in your drawer, ask yourself, have you really checked it properly? Let's break the pattern for a second. Imagine explaining to someone that you once had a coin worth thousands, but you spent it without knowing. That's not just frustrating, it's painful, and it happens more often than you think. The fear of missing out here isn't hypothetical. It's real, and it's happening every day. Now, shift that feeling. Imagine the opposite. You take a closer look. You notice something unusual. Maybe the lettering looks slightly doubled. Maybe the coin is in exceptional condition. You send it for grading. Weeks later, the results come back, and suddenly, that ordinary penny isn't so ordinary anymore. That's the moment collectors live for. And it could be your moment too. But here's the urgency most people ignore. Coins are being lost, damaged, or spent every single day. The supply of high-quality and rarer coins is shrinking. Meanwhile, demand from collectors continues to rise. That gap between shrinking supply and growing demand is exactly what drives value upward, which means the longer you wait, the higher the stakes become. And let's address the elephant in the room. Is every 1945 penny worth a fortune? No, but that's not the point. The point is that some aren't. Without the right knowledge, you'll never know if you're holding one of them. This isn't about hype, it's about awareness, precision, and timing. Here's something most people don't realize. Professional collectors don't rely on luck. They rely on patterns, details, and discipline. They know exactly what to look for, and more importantly, what to avoid. That's why they consistently find value where others see nothing. So the real question is, where do you stand? Are you the person who overlooks opportunity because it looks ordinary, or the one who pauses, examines, and discovers what others miss? Because, at the end of the day, wealth doesn't always come from something new. Sometimes, it comes from recognizing the value of something old before everyone else does. Now take a moment. Think about the coins you already have, the ones sitting in jars, drawers, or old collections. What if one of them holds more than just history? What if it holds potential? This isn't just about a 1945 penny. It's about a mindset, a shift from ignoring small details to recognizing hidden value, and once you develop that eye, you'll never look at coins or opportunities the same way again. So, before you spend your next penny, stop, look closer, because sometimes the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprise. There's one thing you need to hear before we begin, because it could change the way you look at every single penny in your pocket. What if I told you that an ordinary-looking 1955 Lincoln Wheat Penny, something millions of people have ignored, spent, or tossed aside, has sold for over $500,000? Not because it's gold, not because it's ancient, but because of a tiny, almost invisible mistake. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people would never even notice it. Picture this. It's 1955. America is booming. Pockets are full of change. And the US Mint is producing millions of Lincoln Wheat Pennies like clockwork. Nothing unusual, nothing special, just another year, another coin. But deep inside the minting process, something goes wrong. A misalignment, a doubling, a flaw so subtle at first glance, yet so dramatic under the right eyes, that it would go on to become one of the most famous and valuable coin errors in US history. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The 1955 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny you're looking for wasn't supposed to stand out. In fact, Philadelphia coins at that time didn't carry mint marks at all. So, the absence of a mint mark, completely normal. Which means the real treasure is hidden in plain sight. The real value comes from a dramatic doubling error, especially in the date and lettering. Liberty and In God We Trust appear almost shadowed, like the coin is slightly out of focus, except it's not. It's a minting mistake, and that mistake turned an ordinary penny into a collector's dream. Let me ask you something. How many pennies have you handled in your lifetime? Thousands, tens of thousands, and how many did you actually look at? Exactly. That's how these treasures slip through the cracks. That's how a coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars can sit unnoticed in a jar, a drawer, or even a cash register. Now imagine the moment someone finally notices it. Maybe it's under a lamp. Maybe it's by accident. That slight doubling catches the eye. At first, there's confusion. Is it damaged? Is it fake? But then comes the realization. This is the 1955 doubled die obverse, one of the most iconic era coins ever produced. And suddenly, that 1-cent coin isn't just currency, it's an asset. And yes, high-grade examples of this coin have reached staggering prices at auction. While not every 1955 penny will make you rich, pristine and authenticated examples of the doubled die variety have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. With top-tier specimens approaching that $500,000 range, the difference between a common penny and a life-changing find often comes down to condition, clarity of the era, and authentication. But here's the part most people don't want to hear. Timing matters. The coin market is driven by demand, and right now, rare era coins are attracting serious attention. Collectors are hunting, investors are watching, and when demand spikes, so do prices, which means holding on to the right coin, or selling it at the right moment, can make a massive difference. Let's break the illusion for a second. Not every 1955 penny is valuable. I know, that's not as exciting, but it's necessary. The magic lies specifically in the doubled die era. Without it, you're holding a coin worth only a few cents to a few dollars depending on condition. With it, you're in a completely different league. This is where knowledge separates opportunity from regret. And here's a quick reality check that might save you from a costly mistake. Some coins appear doubled because of damage or wear. That's not the same thing. True doubled die errors are crisp, consistent, and part of the original strike. If the doubling looks messy or uneven, chances are it's not the one you're hoping for. This is why professional grading and authentication are critical before making any big decisions. Now, let's shift perspective for a moment. Think about the psychology behind this. Why does a tiny error create such massive value? It's scarcity. It's story. It's the idea that something imperfect became extraordinary. Collectors aren't just buying metal. They're buying history, rarity, and the thrill of owning something few others ever will. And maybe, just maybe, you're closer to that opportunity than you think. So, before you spend another penny without looking at it, pause for a second, check the date, look closely at the lettering, tilt it under the light, because the difference between 1 cent and $500,000 isn't luck, it's awareness. And if you do find something unusual, don't rush. Don't sell it blindly. Get it evaluated. Understand what you have. Because the biggest mistake isn't missing the coin. It's having it and not realizing its true value. At the end of the day. The 1955 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that extraordinary value can hide in ordinary places. That small details can lead to massive rewards. And that sometimes, the things we overlook the most are the ones worth the most. So the next time you hear the clink of loose change, ask yourself one simple question. What if this is the one? What if I told you that a simple penny, the kind most people ignore, toss in jars, or leave behind at a checkout counter, could quietly be worth up to $698,000? Not a rare gold coin, not a centuries-old artifact, a 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny, coin millions of Americans have held in their hands without a second thought. Now, here's the real question. What if one of those coins is sitting in your home right now, unnoticed? This is Coin Relave, where we uncover the hidden value behind everyday coins, and today, we're diving into a story that could completely change the way you look at your spare change forever. Picture this for a moment. It's 1950, post-war America is booming. Factories are running, and the Denver Mint is producing millions of pennies for circulation. These coins were meant to be ordinary, but as history has proven time and time again, it's often the smallest mistakes that create the biggest fortunes. Somewhere during production, a rare error slipped through, almost invisible to the untrained eye. But to collectors, it's like finding buried treasure in plain sight. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny before spending it? Here's where things get serious. The 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny is already desirable among collectors because of its historical context and limited high-grade survivors. But the real magic, the real money, comes from error variations. We're talking about subtle but powerful anomalies like double die impressions, off-center strikes, or even mint mark irregularities that transform an ordinary coin into a collector's obsession. And here's the twist. Most people miss them completely. Think about that. A coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars could pass through dozens of hands, spent on coffee, dropped in a tip jar, or forgotten in a drawer, simply because no one recognized what they were holding. It's almost ironic, isn't it? The difference between 1 cent and nearly $700,000 comes down to a tiny detail you might need a magnifying glass to see. Now imagine the moment a collector discovers one. Heart racing, hands steady, that quiet realization: this is not just a penny. This is an opportunity. This is leverage. This is life-changing. But here's where urgency comes in. The market for rare coin errors is not slowing down, it's accelerating. Wealthy collectors are constantly searching for unique pieces to add to their portfolios. And when demand rises faster than supply, prices don't just increase, they explode. Let me challenge you with a quick thought. How many coins have you already spent in your lifetime without checking? Hundreds? Thousands? And what if just one of them was the one? Be honest. If pennies could talk, some of them would probably be screaming, "Don't spend me," right before disappearing into a vending machine. The 1950 penny isn't just about age, it's about condition and rarity. Coins that have been preserved in near-perfect condition, especially those with striking errors, are the ones commanding astonishing prices at auctions. We're talking about coins graded at the highest levels, where even the smallest scratch can mean the difference between a few dollars and a life-altering payout. And here's something most people don't realize: the window of opportunity is still open. These coins are still out there, not locked away in museums, but hidden in personal collections, inherited boxes, old piggy banks, and forgotten drawers across America. This isn't just collecting, this is modern-day treasure hunting. So where does that leave you? Right now, you have two choices. You can continue to overlook the coins in your possession, treating them as insignificant, disposable, ordinary, or you can shift your perspective and start seeing them for what they might truly be: assets. Because the people who build wealth in niches like this aren't always experts when they start. They're simply the ones who pay attention, the ones who take a closer look, the ones who refuse to ignore possibility. Imagine turning a handful of overlooked coins into thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Imagine the freedom, the security, the lifestyle shift that comes with that kind of discovery. This isn't about luck. It's about awareness. And the next time you come across a 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny, don't just glance at it, study it. Look for the details others miss. Because in this world, the smallest difference can create the biggest reward. Remember, fortunes aren't always found in obvious places. Sometimes they're hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. So before you spend your next penny, take a second look, because that 1 cent in your hand might just be worth a fortune. What if I told you that a simple penny sitting in your drawer right now could quietly be worth more than a luxury car, or even a house? Not a gold coin, not a rare ancient artifact, just a small, ordinary-looking 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny. Sounds unbelievable, right? But here's the truth most people never hear. The difference between a 1-cent coin and a coin worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands comes down to details so small, most people never even notice them. And that's exactly why people lose money every single day, without even realizing it. Now, imagine this. You're going through an old jar of coins. Maybe something passed down from your parents, or something you've kept for years without thinking twice. And right there, mixed in with the rest, is a 1951 wheat penny. At first glance, it looks completely normal. But what if it's not? What if that one coin is the one collectors are actively searching for? The one that could change everything? This is where things get serious. Because the 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny, minted in Denver, was produced in the millions, which means most of them are still only worth a few cents to a few dollars. But, and this is where it gets interesting, there are rare versions and high-grade specimens that have shocked the market, selling for thousands, even pushing toward extraordinary valuations under the right conditions. And here's the part that should make you pay attention. Most people don't recognize these valuable coins. When they have them, they spend them, they ignore them, or worse, they sell them for almost nothing. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked closely at your coins? Not just glanced, but really inspected them. Because hidden value doesn't announce itself. It hides in plain sight. Now, let's break this down. The 1951 wheat penny becomes valuable when certain factors are like rarity and, most importantly, errors. We're talking about things like doubled dies, off-center strikes, or subtle minting mistakes that turn an ordinary coin into something collectors fight over. And here's where excitement meets urgency. Because the number of these rare variations is extremely limited. Once they're found and locked away in collections, they're gone from the market, which means every remaining coin out there becomes more valuable over time. Now, picture this scenario. 2 people each have the exact same coin. Or at least, they think they do. One spends it without a second thought. The other takes a closer look, gets it graded, and discovers it's a rare variation in exceptional condition. One person loses $1, the other gains thousands. Same coin, different outcome. That's not luck. That's awareness. And right now, awareness is your advantage. But let's pause for a second. If pennies are so small, why are collectors willing to pay so much? It's a fair question, and the answer is simple. Scarcity creates demand. History creates value. And condition determines price. A 1951 wheat penny in average condition. Not impressive. But in near-perfect condition, with a rare mint error. Now you're looking at something entirely different. Something serious. Something that belongs in auctions, not pocket change. And here's a quick reality check. There are collectors out there right now today actively searching for coins like this. Not casually. Aggressively, because they understand what most people don't. They know that rare coins are more than collectibles. They're assets, and, in some cases, they outperform traditional investments. Now, think about that for a moment. While most people are chasing complicated ways to build wealth, others are quietly flipping coins, turning overlooked items into real money. No hype, just knowledge. So, the question becomes, which side are you on? The ones who ignore the details, or the ones who recognize opportunity when it's right in front of them? Because, here's the truth, the window of opportunity doesn't stay open forever. Every year, more of these coins are discovered, graded, and stored away, which means fewer chances for someone like you to find one in the wild, and once they're gone, they're gone. So here's what you need to do next. Start checking your coins, not casually. Seriously. Look for dates. Look for mint marks. Look for anything unusual, because the smallest detail could be the biggest difference. And that 1951 wheat penny you've been ignoring, it might not be just a penny anymore. It might be your entry point into something much bigger, something most people never even realize they had. So before you spend your next coin, take a closer look. Because sometimes, the smallest things carry the greatest value. What if I told you that a simple 1-cent coin, sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or even your pocket right now, could be worth more than $500,000? Sounds impossible, right? But here's where it gets interesting. Because in 1957, at the Denver Mint, millions of Lincoln Wheat Pennies were struck. Ordinary coins, used for everyday purchases, passed from hand to hand without a second thought. Most of them are still only worth a few cents today. But a tiny number of these coins were not ordinary at all. They carried something unusual, something subtle, something that most people completely overlooked. And those are the coins that changed lives. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Not glanced, not ignored, but really looked. Because what you're about to discover might make you rethink every single coin you've ever touched. The 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny is one of the most widely collected coins in American history, featuring Abraham Lincoln on the front and the iconic wheat stalks on the back. It represents an era of simplicity, but also hidden opportunity. Now here's where things take a dramatic turn. Among the millions produced, a few rare error coins slipped through the cracks of the minting process. We're talking about coins with doubling in the lettering, misaligned strikes, or die errors so subtle that only a trained eye or a very lucky owner would notice. One of the most talked about varieties is the 1957 doubled die penny. While most known examples come without a mint mark, the idea of a rare doubled feature appearing on a Denver minted coin has driven collectors into a frenzy for years. And when condition meets rarity, that's when the numbers start to explode. We're not talking about $10 or $100. We're talking about life-changing money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, in extreme rarefied cases. Now imagine this. You're cleaning out an old box. Maybe it belonged to your parents or your grandparents. You find a small envelope labeled old coins. You almost throw it away, but something stops you. You open it, and inside, is a 1957 penny dot. At first glance, it looks like nothing special. Worn, copper brown, ordinary, but then you notice something strange. The letters don't look quite right. There's a slight doubling, almost like a shadow. Your heart starts to race. Could this be one of them? Now, here's the twist most people miss. It's not just about finding the coin, it's about recognizing it before someone else does. Because every single day, rare coins are unknowingly spent, traded, or lost forever, simply because people didn't know what they were holding. And that's the real tragedy. Quick question, be honest. Have you ever used a penny just to get exact change and walk away? Yeah, most people have. Now imagine doing that with a coin worth thousands or more. Feels a little different now, doesn't it? Here's the reality. The market for rare coins is stronger than ever. Collectors are actively searching. Auctions are heating up, and the demand for unique era coins continues to rise. Coins like the 1957 Wheat Penny, especially those with rare characteristics, are no longer just collectibles, they are assets. And the people who understand this are the ones quietly building wealth from the smallest, most overlooked pieces of metal. So what should you do next? Start paying attention. Look at your coins. Check the dates. Examine the details. Learn what doubling looks like. Understand mint marks. Because once you train your eye, you'll never see pocket change the same way again. And remember this: opportunities like this don't announce themselves loudly. They hide in plain sight, waiting for someone observant enough, patient enough, and curious enough to discover them. So the next time you come across a 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny, don't ignore it. Don't spend it. Take a closer look. Because the difference between 1 cent and a small fortune might just come down to a single detail. And if you want to keep uncovering coins that could change your financial future, make sure you stay connected to this channel, because the next discovery might already be in your hands.